Yesterday I got to have a little birthday adventure, and I went down to see the big cats down at the Cat Haven east of Sanger. And of course that's where Sandy grew up, and I'd never been through that part of the country in a while. It was beautiful with all the poppies and everything. It was just a lovely, lovely drive. Unfortunately, as an animal communicator, I didn't get to have the opportunity to sit and meditate and see what the big cats would share with me, but I do have to say that whenever I'm in the presence of animals, I have this automatic going to their sense of peace and oneness with all, and their acceptance of what is, and it instantly calms me. It's almost a default that I just automatically become more peaceful and alert to what's present and and where I'm at in the moment. And finally, in the presence of animals, my head stops, and I'm just able to just listen and be present. However, a few weeks ago, because I love to connect and listen to what the animals share with me in their wisdom, some of the stories you may have read in the Java News, some of the stories that I'm sharing, their wisdom is absolutely stunning. It sometimes can be appalling. They don't mince words. They cut right to the chase. I guess if you're a cat, that's just your MO. You just get right down to business if something moves. And so I asked Mother Maggie, who is a foster cat that I've been taking care of, her 2 kittens shipped out a week ago last Thursday. Her last day with me is tomorrow, and I would just ask a little prayer for those of you who love cats, for her to find her perfect forever home, because she's getting neutered on Tuesday, and then she'll be going to the Bay Area to be adopted out in one of the pet stores that work with Madera County to see that these little guys get homes. And they do wonderful, wonderful work. So if you ever need a little animal, please go down and check out the animal shelter. And so, but anyway, I was asking her in the car, because I hadn't connected with her, and I just wanted to see what she might say. And I said, Mama Maggie, do you have any words of wisdom that you would share with me? And she said, why do you humans always seem to you have this need to know why? She says, you want answers so that you can continue to think in error. All you need to know is in the now. If your life isn't working, you need to readjust. And like when I was in my 20s, in my late teens and 20s, my dad had a sailboat in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I come from. And we would take the boat out. In this particular case, at 21, I went to Key West for a year. And we would take the boat out. And if those of you who haven't had the opportunity to sail, it is a magnificent experience. But you go out in your boat, and in order to move along, you unfurl your sails, you set your boat in such a position that it can catch the wind, and you tie it off so that the wind will fill your sails, and you will move along at the best clip you can get from your skill at setting your sails. And that reminded me of life, metaphorically, that we are in our little sailboats along our path, and we're constantly adjusting to the wind, to the change in the seas, to our egos, to the changes that life brings us, in order for us to move along our path at the best of our ability. So today I just wanted to share with you, one of the things that I wanted to share with you that came up this morning that Spirit shared with me, is that today being Easter, Jesus metaphorically left us with an indelible memory, that metaphorically he rose above his appearance of being a physical man and demonstrated absolutely that he was one with God, and that he left that promise that that is our destiny, our absolute destiny, and that our divinity is an authentic thing. It is absolutely the truth. That our worth is a done deal. There is no second guessing our worth in our being divine children of God. And that our well-being is from our state of mind, but it is a promise. And if we will consistently work with changing our thoughts, working with our fears, letting go of the appearance, staying present in the now, we can have all those promises that this day represents in memorial to Jesus. And I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
But this season of Easter is about every one of us. It tells us how to experience this life, how to enhance our life. The message is esoteric in nature, but it's not about just one person. It's about each one of us and how we can personalize this life experience and become the magnificence that we are. That's what the Easter season's about, and hopefully, well, I should say hopefully, this talk will kind of enunciate all of that, okay? That's my talk before the talk. We're grateful to be here in this atmosphere of love, focusing on this empowering themes that we have. And what are the themes? Well, worth, well-being, and authenticity. I had a hard time with that word. Authenticity. What this theme relates to are undisputable origin, a spiritual energy that radiates perfection, that radiates completion as its sole authority. That's it. That's what this month's about. That we're connected to this awesome power, that we are the perfection of that power. And when I started developing this theme, my reflection got into my 30 years in the school system, when a parent would come in and the child got into a little bit of problem, and the parent would, most of them always said that, I don't expect my child to be perfect, I just want my child to be normal. And I've been a religious science thinker for many years, and what came into my mind is, that's nonsense. Your child is perfect, and you are perfect too. So we have the idea that perfection means the end result of something. No, we are perfect because we are the life form of this divine energy, and its sole authority is perfection and completion. That's who we are. And so that's what this talk's all about. And as a soul, Angelo as a soul, that anything that is contrary to that idea of who and what I am is an illusion. It's not real. It's a false perception and an interaction that our minds, our human minds, think about that's not right. It's a false belief. And it's a false belief that generates from a conscience of fear, doubt. And so these themes today not only relate to that core, that ultimate who and what we are, but it also it relates to Easter, the season itself, and we'll see that as we go along. So no matter what we experience in this human life, no matter what the obstacles might be, or that we put labels on, this is terrible, this is that, when we, and I use the word absorb, when it becomes part of it, when we absorb in our consciousness that which we are, that we are that perfection, that we are the completion, that's what we are. And we bring that into the moment. When we bring it into this life experience right now, and it almost becomes part of our DNA, that every word that I speak, every thought, every action I do, it's there present right there, that consciousness of who I'm, what I am, the perfection of the divine. And then when we do that, and I like to even think of that in all of the things, in all my activities, this idea, this consciousness of wholeness and completeness and completion and perfection is there with me when I'm in everything I do. This is what this is all about today. And then when we do that, we transcend. Because what we're trying to do is move past and let pass the dark side, the false illusion that whatever's happening to us has power over us, controls me in some way, that causes my anger and my negativity, that causes me to be unhealthy and all this nonsense. We transcend all that. And then we move into that magnificence that we are. There's a story that I like to, and it's well known, but it really is appropriate. I thought about this more. Should I do this? Yes, I'm going to. It's a story that's very appropriate. And I made Bill on a Marine pilot. I don't think he was. But this pilot, he spent 4 years in Vietnam. Anyway, he's in his plane and he gets shoot down over Vietnam. And he parachutes out. He's immediately captured by the Viet Cong. And the philosophy with that during that war was, you know, if we capture these Americanos, or if we capture them, and if we put them in a cell where you can't even stand upright, and you isolate them, the human nature is we need relationships, we need activity, we need sociality with others. So if we put them in this cubicle and make them not be able to respond to anything or anybody, then they will suffer. And then they will want to let us know about the secrets of war. So that was the philosophy. So here's Bill, he's a POW, and he's put in the cubicle, and this is a true story. And he loved to play golf, but he came from a belief system similar to ours, where he knew that he was an eternal spiritual being, that no one ever can touch or take advantage of that which he are, or make it diminish that in any way. But his physical body, yeah, things do change. But as a spiritual being, it's okay. So he decided, I'm going to be in this POW, and what he decided to do, he loved to play golf. He was a golfer, Steve. He loved to play golf, but he was lousy. He wasn't like my friend Steve. He was a lousy golfer. But he had two buddies at home, and they'd meet at the local golf course, the 9-hole, and they'd play almost every week. And he would sometimes hit the ball, and most of the time, like Angelo, hit the dirt. And his friends loved being with him. They chit-chatted, and so they put up with it, even though it took all day to get through 9 holes around twice, 18 holes. So he decided, you know what I'm going to do in conscience? I'm an eternal being, and I can create whatever activity I want. He decided to improve his golf game while he was a POW. He played golf in mind every day for 2 years. And then when the war ended, he left the service, went home to a homecoming, and they had a big party. So his two buddies were there. And he said, you know, I'd like us to play golf. Let's do a round of golf next week. And the two buddies said, no, that's not good. He said, you haven't been around for 4 years. You've been a POW for 2 years. You were lousy as a golfer. We hate to say that, but you were good. Maybe we should meet at the practice range and practice a while. We don't want to embarrass you because of what all you've gone through. He said, that's nonsense. I want to go play golf. And so they go out and play golf. And nevertheless, he beat the socks off them. He never won a game. He very seldom scratched, got less than 125 in an 18-holer. And he beat them, and he had 3 under par. What does that tell us? And so this whole idea of who and what we are and how we manifest that has to do with how do we rise above and transcend what's going on. And this brings us to the idea that what did this POW do? He witnessed the death of illusion. Think about it. And when we say the word death today, let's look at the Anglo-Saxon, the Oxford definition of death. It's the passing of. He witnessed the passing from his consciousness, the illusion, even the most horrid condition, that it would take power over him and control his life. He witnessed the passing of that, the death. And what else did he recognize? He realized the resurrection, the rising up of that power that he is. And he did all that through golf, becoming a better golfer. So this brings us to Easter, then, and the celebration of Easter. What's that all about? Well, the word Easter, the origination of that word is not totally clear. Some 8th century monks felt that it came from the word Esther. It's Anglo-Saxon, Esther. Esther was the goddess of fertility, the goddess of spring. But later on, another idea came. Maybe it came from the Norse word Esther. Esther was a word that represented a new beginning, a growing a growing sun. And I like that and resonate with that. So anyway, as we move into this, we realize that each of us experience what we call the Easter message. The traditional part is, in Christianity, it has to do with Jesus' victory over death. And death and resurrection. For New Thoughters, we're different. We recognize Jesus as maybe the first New Thought minister of the New Thought principles. But we also honor during this period of time all the other masters whose shoulders we stand on. We're honoring Lao Tzu, the Tao. We're honoring Siddhartha, the Buddha. We're honoring the great philosophers, Plotinus and Plato. We stand on their shoulders and they brought this belief system to us. So we don't detract from the honoring of the Master Jesus. We accept him because his ministry brought us a lot of the New Thought principles. But we also embrace all the masters that came forward. And what's kind of neat about this month for each one of us is that we experience death and resurrection all the time in our life. On this human journey. And let's think about that. What did we mean by that? The passing and the rising up. At one time I was a little bundle of joy. And I had a loving parent that nurtured me and took care of me and protected me. And that was cool. And we find that this death and resurrection is a natural phenomena in consciousness. We're not talking about physical death now. Because in New Thought, some of us, believe that death is none of our business. Our physical death is none of our business. But what is our business? It's how we live. How we use these universal principles to enhance our life. How we treat others. That's our business. And so we go through a lot of this. And it's a natural phenomenon. There's nothing to be afraid of. We see the death of being a baby. Or the passing. Let's use the word passing. Of being a baby, and rising to a new energy source, a new beginning. We go into the school, and we go from this cuddly, nice parent who really cares about to these teachers. I had nuns, who these teachers, my God, what happened to the love and abundance? They're demanding. They'll keep you after school if you're not good. And we actually rise up. We resurrect to this new dimension of life. And some of us, it's pretty tough. I didn't like being hit with a ruler when I used my left hand. I mean, there are things that we have to do, but it didn't affect me too much. I'm a little insane, but that's okay. And then from then, what do we do? We go on to college, and they could give a darn less. If you don't show up and do the work, you're done. A whole different atmosphere. But we put to death the idea that I'm in high school now, and we let it pass, and we go into a new consciousness, a new resurrection of our life experience. And all of a sudden, we're responsible. Nobody's going to feed you. I went through the Jesuits. They could care less. They're not going to mother me. I had to show up and do the job. But here's where we come in. Because those are natural phenomena. That's a natural evolution of our life. It's all in consciousness. Here's where we come in. We do make a difference. It is part of our business of how we experience this life energy. That's our job. And that means that we need to take a look at what's entering our mind. What are these illusions that we have in our mind? Why are so many people out there struggling and suffering? What's going on here? And so we need to look at our own life. Look within ourselves and say, why am I not having a good time? Because I'm here on this planet to enjoy myself. I'm on vacation as a spiritual being. I'm not here to suffer and pain. So what do I need to do? What do I need to put to death to pass from my life so that I can enhance my life? And what we're doing here is this. We're putting to death, we're eliminating from our life the idea that anything has a power over us. No way. I don't care what happens, whether we lose our job, or we lose a relationship, and we find that there are times when we need to release some of those things. We need to, I don't like the word put to death, we're talking about people, but we need to let pass certain things. And we need to resurrect what we're doing. For all of us. Now, it doesn't matter how much you know or what you study or how many classes you take. Just the other day it happened to me. My gosh. I had this person call me. And, well, before then, I usually, for Wednesday, I wanted to make a list of what I needed to do for Wednesday. And I had this whole list of stuff for Emerson and the people I was going to see from the PLC and all that. I had the list, so I can get this done. And then I got a text message from Heike Ward. I'm going to use her name. She's a darling. One of our graduates, she's a police chaplain in Seattle, but she put in for a job that was open with the Civil Air Patrol, auxiliary of the Air Force. And she emailed, she says, Angie, I hate to do this to you, but you need to send my transcript to Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama by Friday because I have to have that on file before they'll interview me and I have a chance for the job of my life. And then you text back and says, no problem. I'll put it in priority mail Wednesday, tomorrow morning, and they'll have it in plenty of time. So I go to the office, and what happens? Oh, my computer decided it didn't want to recognize my password. Oh, great. So I go to the laptop, and it didn't recognize my password. But it wanted to think too much. You ever go that? It's thinking, and it kept thinking and thinking, oh my God. And I'm an Italian, emotional Italian, I realize that. And I'm boiling because I want to get Heike Ward that. I want her to have this job, it's important. That's compassion fatigue. I want her to have this job. I want Heike, she's a good person. And so I'm crazy, and we go back to my desktop, the Mac, and it finally, I realized why it wasn't recognizing my password. I had it all on capitals. So I got it done. I did it. And so I go to the transcript, and I'm going to print it, and the printer did not recognize it. Did not recognize it. Would not print my transcript. And by then, Stella had called me, and I said, Stella, nothing's going right. Everything's going wrong. What am I going to do? I'm a mess. And she says, practice what you preach. God, give me a break, Stella. But anyway, and then Schwarzenheimer shows up with her class. There she is. And she realizes the energy, and she's up, and she says, take a deep breath. And I wanted my mind, I don't want a deep breath, I want my computer to print that transcript. And so anyway, and then just breathe, it's all okay. Well, the long and the short of it is, I was able to send the transcript out. But every one of us can be under that, can't we? We get under the spell of what's going on, and then we forget. I've been at this for 48 years, and look at it. Just Tuesday, I was a mess. So that's what this is all about. And I like what Pablo Picasso said one day. He says, when I work, I leave my body outside the door. What metaphor that? What is that? What does that mean? It means that when we're active and when we're doing things, we need to stay centered in truth. We need to realize that we're not the physical being. We're the spiritual and the physical, but we're spiritual primarily. And that we are that undisputable origin. We are the spiritual energy that always rates, always radiates perfection and completion in all that we do. I'm going to close with Julie. Julie's a teenager, and she went through what I was going through with the computer, but even worse so, because as a teenager, all of a sudden her body stopped working. She couldn't move her limbs. She got to the point where she couldn't walk, and she ended up in a wheelchair. And she had a good spiritual balance there because she felt that God loves me, and no matter what happens, it's for my greater good, and I'll always be protected. But her parents were upset, and they said, I don't want Julie, I don't want you to end up being a paraplegic in a wheelchair. And Julie would say, get that out of your mind. God knows what's good for me. It's going to be okay. Well, her doctors couldn't figure out why she wasn't going through this, so they sent her to San Francisco for some tests. And she's lying in the bed there in the hospital. And all of a sudden, she was praying. She said, God, protect me and heal me and let me be that magnificent I am. And her bed started moving. You know, in those hospitals, sometimes the beds have wheels rather than really out. And so the bed started moving, and it moved across the room. And she yelled, it's working! I'm moving! Little did she know that everyone was experiencing movement in the hospital. That there was a minor earthquake going on. But she refused to leave that alone. She refused to believe it was the earthquake. She really believed in her heart that this divine energy that she called God would heal her. And it did. So say with me loud and clear, and so it is. That's it.